because basically, going back to 13, it says there was no bread in the land, in all the land. Because of famine doesn't mean it's no food at all. It basically means a lack or the inability to get to food. And, when you go into the, like when you read up in this and I don't think it may be up at the beginning of the account. Right, because I believe when you read up, it talks about how Joseph basically got his family to move from the land they were in, which was the land of Canaan, to the land of Egypt. Because where they were basically dwelling, it was a lack of food, and that's how the whole situation started. You know, that's how they found their brother. Because when you go into the history of it, you know, Joseph was one of the sons of Jacob, whose name was changed to Israel, and where you get the 12 tribes of Israel from, you know, because although, you know, those are 12 different, it's one nation, but they're like 12 nations to themselves, because you know, that's where you get the Simeonites, and you get the Levites, and you get the Reubenites, and you get the Gadites, too, um, you know, uh, because through these different men, these 12 men. So, because out of jealousy, they uh, sold their brother into slavery, but it was ultimately destined, and it was the will of Yahweh Shem Yahshua, because at that time, the Lord the Lord had that happen so he could preserve, you know, Yasharala, because when Joseph was able to be exalted and put into a position, because basically Joseph was like the viceroy. He was like the second in command of, you know, Egypt. That's how powerful our Lord is. And when he was put in his position, it allowed, the Israelites to thrive and survive. You know. So it says, and there was no bread in all the land, for the famine was very sore, so that the land of Egypt and all the land of Canaan fainted by the reason of the famine. So that means they was doing bad. You know what I mean? Like if you've ever fainted or fell out, you know what I mean? Yeah. And Joseph gathered up all the money that was found in the land of Egypt. And you could only imagine, because just, they said, because Joseph had the ability to interpret dreams, and that's why he was exalted, because he interpreted the dream for the pharaohs. And basically, it was going to be a certain amount of years of plenty, and there's going to be a certain amount of years of famine. And Joseph pretty much directed the king to save up from the years of plenty for the years of famine. And the wisdom was so much well received that Joseph was put in an exalted position. Um, but the famine was so bad, it got to the point where the families were selling, pretty much everything they had, to the point they sold themselves into slavery. It says, and Joseph gathered up all the money that was found in the land of Egypt and in the land of Canaan for the core which they bought. And Joseph brought the money into Pharaoh's house. And when money failed in the land of Egypt and in the land of Canaan, all the Egyptians came unto Joseph and said, give us bread, for why should we die in thy presence, for the money faileth? And Joseph said, give your cattle, and I will give you for your cattle if money fail. And when you keep on reading down, pretty much when they gave up everything they had, they gave it themselves. And this devil is literally, working that playbook, because he understands the power and control food has over people. You know, that's why tactical war is always to, stop the food. When they besiege a city, they stop the food. That happened at the siege of Masada. It's gonna happen again, because America's being besieged by, you know, his devil is besieging his own people to put them in servitude. Because, when the hour of temptation comes, you're gonna have a choice to a degree. You know, well, you're gonna have a choice. You go either choose to accept it or you're gonna choose to reject it. And it's, I mean, people be like, well, that ain't no choice if you take away certain things. No, you still have a choice. Scriptures talk about man does not live by bread alone. You know, you've had in the scriptures accounts where individuals chose rather to die than to eat pork. So these things are going to come to pass again because there's no new thing under the sun. So I want to start off by giving all praise, all honor, and all glory to call loyal, like Yahweh, by Hashem, Yahushai, by Hashem, Kodas Bakatham. I want to say double honors to my apostles. Honors of the great millstone, teachers do rule well. Peace and salutations to the Akim across the four corners of the earth, pushing this truth with faith and with sincerity, as well as risking their lives and the freedom to do so, now more so than ever. Say shalom to the Akim and the Aqua, thought the list of the learning. Lord will lead us as edify. Shalom to the Israelite foreigners scattered abroad. In the land of the other nations appear like the other nations, but subscribing to this truth to you. I say shalom. So, Brother Yahweh, South out of GMS Cleveland Church, a fellow servant. Come at you with a little lesson through the Spirit, through the power of Yahweh Shah. This lesson is in regards to okay. Lesson is in regards to an article I see this is what I woke up to. So it says BRICS, China and Saudi Arabia drive global end to U.S. dollar. And when you go into BRICS, it's an acronym for Brazil, Russia, India, China, South America. But now you have Saudi Arabia as well as other nations willing and I think trying to join it. So it's more than just the five, and because they're trying to end the 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 power of the petrodollar, and once that's ended, you go see the money fell off. Again, it's no new thing under the sun, and no new thing under the sun because when you go into the petrodollar, which is the world reserve country, Salaki, world reserve currency. That's the dollar that's used for financial trade on a worldwide scale. Well, you've had for the last couple months nations like Russia and China because of the sanctions. They're NATO and these countries, in America. First and foremost, America, Babylon the Great can put on nations like North Korea, like China, like Russia. They basically went around those sanctions by trading with each other and building up their gold reserves. Because again, the American dollar is not backed by gold; it's backed by the world reserve currency. But once that loses its status, the money's going to fail. So I'm gonna read a little bit of this. Yeah, it's spiritual because this is the second time me trying to do this video. I don't know why it even stopped. I mean, I deleted some of my memory prior. Says or some of my content prior because sometimes that is the reason why your video or this mobile Z doesn't react or work right. But I deleted. Then I got a lot of memory, so it's like I don't understand. But I have to look at it again. It says for much of the year, sometimes it's spiritual though. Sometimes it be just saying. For much of the year, the BRICS bloc has seen a renewed focus on de-dollarization. Indeed, its 2023 annual summit ended with a five-nation expansion. So it was five more nations that joined. It's a five-nation expansion plan and several initiatives to help boost local currencies. Now amid the expansion of the BRICS bloc, both China and Saudi Arabia are set to drive the global end to the U.S. dollar. And Saudi Arabia is what's, allies with America. That's pretty much what gave America the world reserve currency status because in order, pretty much in order to, because all nations got to use oil. So America and Saudi Arabia worked out a deal where all global trade for oil, because Saudi Arabia at one point in time was the world's biggest producer of oil, would had to be done in U.S. dollars, and that's what gave them that power. But now that the U.S. dollar is on decline, that's why you got inflation now because of the fact you got. Although they say that our dollar is still worth more than a lot of countries, which it is, But if you ever paid attention to like Mexico, I was bringing up this example earlier today or yesterday. You know, you take that's why you could take like $50,000 and go to Mexico and live like a king. You know, they show that in that movie Dust to Dawn. You know, it's a reason why everybody after they, commit a heist, they want to run to Mexico because you can. I think Jesse Ventura, the wrestler, I guess he was a governor for I think Nebraska or somebody. He moved to Mexico because you could live. That's just like a lot of countries. Like you could live like a king. I remember I was working this job, and it was a guy that I work with. And every year he took a trip to Venezuela or South America. It was one of the countries. He said over in South America. It was Colombia, Venezuela. They even go to different places, but basically like the passport bros. He was doing that years prior. Now I would suggest that now because is the price of living is cheap over there. You can deal with a beautiful woman and live like a king for a few $1,000s, the money that we throw away here. You know what I mean? But nowadays, he was just talking about that. They kidnapped a guy. He was going to be his a woman he was speaking to uh, over there. He went on a trip with his family. Then he went to there to meet the woman, and pretty much they kidnapped him and said send him $2,000. And I guess the money didn't work out right, or it was some kind of something happened where they pretty much killed him over $2,000. So but point of all that is Slovakia. Uh, Saudi Arabia and America at one point in time was allies, but no longer. And you're going to see the effects of that really, really soon. Saudi Arabia is one of the 5 nations set to join the alliance. Specifically, it joined the United Arab Emirates, Egypt, Iran, and Ethiopia. Huh. So yeah. However, the nation is poised to be a massive importance. That's the spirit, because I just said this, to the bloc's efforts against the dollar. Subsequently, even a former U.S. official has warned of what its cooperation with the initiatives could mean. Says China and Saudi Arabia to have massive impact on BRICS de-dollarization. Says they're throughout the 20 shaking up the geolo. So like it's throughout 2023, the BRICS alliance has shaken up the geopolitical sector, including Slovakia, including indeed the bloc has consistently challenged the status quo of the global order. Subsequently, they have driven their own goal of multipolarity in the current international landscape. Now, those two things could see continued evolution throughout the coming year, thanks to recent cooperation. Specifically, the BRICS blocs is set to see both China and Saudi Arabia drive the global end to the U.S. dollar. Indeed, the two nations have agreed to a landmark currency swap that will continue to push Saudi Arabia's embrace of BRICS local currencies. Therefore, it will only decrease its use of the U.S. dollar. So basically, how America had it set up for, they pretty much the oil was only sold in U.S. dollars. Pretty much Saudi Arabia and China are dealing with some kind of situation where they're probably going to be using a UI. And then I think they have a. Oh yeah, that's the spirit. BRICS Brazil calls for digital revolution and new world order. That's the spirit because I was just saying how they all involved in the same thing. You got all these nations talking about a new order because that's what the elites are pushing. Because behind the scenes, these rulers and presidents and these rulers of these other nations, they're involved in, you got to remember that it's global governance. You know what I mean? Since its inception in the BRICS bloc, Saudi Arabia, China, and the United States have been a massive talking point. However, the geopolitical implications of its association with the bloc's de-dollarization could be astronomical. Currency swaps, currency swap agreements between the nations and BRICS affiliates could only further that mission. Both Saudi Arabia and the People's Bank of China agreed to a 3-year currency swap agreement worth 6.93 billion. Moreover, that's all in Chinese currency, aiding the two nations increasing the amount of local currency that the Middle East nations has access to. Ultimately, it could have massive repercussions on the global market and the U.S. dollar's place within it. And then I know the last thing I thought they would mention it. I know the BRICS nations has something going on with their currency being being their currency being some new currency. It is all those nations coming out with one currency, or they're coming out with a digital currency at the beginning of the year. Bear with me for a second. Says the you know what I mean? You know, because silver and gold is traded every day. You got people that trade stocks, so they'll trade and buy, silver and gold. But again, America's, the U.S. dollar, the world reserve currency is a fiat currency. Pretty much all these currencies are fiat currencies. You know what I mean? But they want to give you a digital currency that's even worse than the fiat because they want to control you. It says it's backed by precious metals, but precious metals, they don't change with the fiat currencies. Fiat currencies didn't exist in ancient Rome. They had actual silver. One of the coins that's mentioned in the scriptures is the denarius, you know, which was a coin with a lot of silver, and then because of greed, pretty much show you how greed is really a spirit because throughout history you've had greed time and time again, and that greed pretty much will have you know individuals cut the metal, so like you cut the metal with more inferior metals, bringing down the value of that coin. That was what pretty much happened in ancient Rome. It says Argentina, Egypt, Ethiopia, Iran, Saudi Arabia, and the United Arab Emirates were invited to join the bloc. Full membership will take effect on January 1st. This is an article on it. It says, how would a new BRICS currency affect the U.S. dollar? So it didn't even really go into the actual digital dollar. It said pretty much they gonna come out with a currency that's backed by precious metals. The BRICS nations are interested in creating a new currency to compete with the U.S. dollar. What progress have they made so far, and what would happen to the American currency if they were successful? The potential currency was while still under review and development, would allow these nations to assert their economic independence while competing with the existing international financial system. The current system is dominated by the U.S. dollar, which accounts for about 90% of all currency trade and nearly 100% of oil trade. I just spoke on it. Central to this ongoing situation is the U.S. trade war with China, as well as U.S. sanctions on China and Russia. I just said all this. Should the BRICS nations establish a new reserve currency, it will likely significantly impact the U.S. dollar, potentially leading to a decline in the demand. In turn, this will have implications for the U.S. and global economies. Because what's going to happen is if people start dealing with a different currency, the U.S. dollar is going to come back. All those these USD federal notes is going to come back to America, and that's when you're going to get your hyperinflation. Because when you got a surplus of something, it brings down the value of it. And you got to understand another thing, how this place is done, because ultimately, I think it's the IMF that chooses which is going to be what currencies has value, what currency don't. But who do you think owns and controls that? The elite. So pretty much like America's circling drain right now, but at the end of the day, it won't completely flush until the elites pull the plug because they got all the money. The scriptures tell you in the book of Job, chapter 9, the earth is given into the hand of the wicked. So if they're allowed this to be set up like that, that means it's pretty much America is pretty much about to be done. Because again, they can keep the American dollar in power, but at the same time, it's losing its power. We all see that. That's why everybody is struggling right now. Everybody, because the money fell in. So there's multiple scriptures that go into that. And because, like I said again, we speak about the fiat currency because fiat basically goes into it's a debt based system. I've been listening to a few economists. They've been bringing that out lately. We got this guy. He calls himself Johnny Bravo with the hairstyle and all. But long story short, the reason why he wears that hair like that, if you hip to it, or if you're not, so I put a few of his videos in our group chat, is because he made a lot of money off of like hair salons. So it says this is the book of Habakkuk chapter 2. I will just try to jump right in. It says verse 2, and the Lord answered me and said, write the vision and make it plain upon tables. So what's the vision? The vision is the prophecy. And it's a prophecy that talks about, the book of Ecclesiastes, that the grinders ceasing. And, that's a lack of jobs because that's what the grinders, are. Yeah. When the grinders cease, when the jobs are few, that's the money fell in itself. Because that means that these companies ain't making profit like that. You got record number of companies closing day in, day out. They talk about next year, 2024, millions are going to be out of work. Now, it makes you question because you constantly see it. A brother was just talking about how he was either doing Uber or DoorDash or something. But he showed what he made in one day. You know what I mean? But eventually that's going to slow down because, again, people, job economy has to be doing healthy in order for, or your economy got to be flourishing for in order for that to continue. You know, you got to remember, Trump is the one that considered himself this saint because he created all these jobs. But he created app based jobs. So if nobody's working, then how is how are you going to sustain yourself? That's just like with Uber. I don't know. I'm not able to do either Uber or DoorDash, any of those app based jobs. But I do know this, that they're saying less people are traveling, and that's the reason why gas has went down. Because again, the higher the demand, the more expensive. The less the demand, the cheaper something gets. So if nobody's buying gas like that because nobody's traveling, that's why they say the gas is lower. What I mean? So once nobody's working like that, who's gonna be buying food or doing that? I mean, nobody's gonna be buying that shit. But that's also the spirit too. You know what I mean? The Lord sustains certain individuals differently than others. So, but Salakia for the rambler, it says, and make it plain upon tables. So when you break down these scriptures, you don't have to be, trying to be like T.I. using all these big fancy words. Literally just make it plain, what I mean? Because, simplicity, like a brother did a video yesterday. He said, milk can save. And I got to understand that breakdown because milk is for babes, but it sustains them. And, it, you know, it sustains them, it saves them, you know what I mean? So something simple could give you the breakdown, you know what I mean? That's what, that's the cold part about Stoicism because, Stoics, they live a simple life. In America, Babylon the Great, they complicated all these things. A simple life in the East, in certain nations. When I was going to South America, how life is cheap there, but life is simple as well. Yeah. Verse 3. Oh, it says, make it plain upon tables that he may run and read of it. For the vision, again, the prophecies, is yet for a appointed time, but at the end it shall speak and not lie. Though it tarry, wait for it because it will surely come. It will not tarry. We often go into how it seems like the prophecy start, stop, start, stop. I remember brothers making mention of that in 2020. But now it seems like it's a prophecy jumping off the page every week. You know, the Russia, Ukraine, and China with Taiwan and all these things are major situations. You know, and the thing about Taiwan and Ukraine are both allies to America. And Biden already made this statement: if China basically attacks Taiwan, America's going to get involved because America has money heavily invested over there, just like they had money heavily invested over Ukraine. They just didn't want to jump out there with Russia right now because, for whatever reason. And you know what? I remember the elder Apostle Tahar making that statement. He said that guy, Zelensky, the president over there in Ukraine, he pretty much sacrificed his people. Yeah, that nigga ain't the devil. Like, how the fuck is you gonna sleep? Like, you had all them men die because they couldn't beat no Russia. And then you didn't give them the aid that they needed. They thought that they was gonna come down with boots on the ground. You would have given them money. I was playing a game just recently that's like that. He come asking for help and support to go fight somebody because he had all these deals of these people he was working with throughout the game, and then certain people brought people and certain people like, oh, we just give you some money. That's funny. Behold, Salaki, for the vision is yet for so Salaki. So the point is, like I said, it seemed like they start, they stop, but now it said but it will not tarry because there's only a few more prophecies left. It's World War III is a major one. And believe it or not, America's at World War III. They just haven't, literally proclaimed it yet. And I wonder how they gonna do that because you got Lydios talking about these soldiers are soft as fuck. Americans are soft as fuck, and it's just they talk about the recruitment is at an all time low. I forgot where I read that, but they were saying the only branch of the military that's actually meeting the numbers of recruitment is the space force. Because but they said all the other branches of the military they're down on their numbers, so you gonna have to do a draft. Behold, his soul which is lifted up is not upright in him. Whose soul? Esau Edom's. But the just shall live by his faith. Yea, also because he transgressed by wine. Who transgressed by wine? Esau Edom. Because his wine is philosophies. He is a proud man, neither keepeth at home. This devil was in everybody else's land, trying to police their land, trying to, give these nations democracy, which is that wine, who enlargeth his desires hell, because he's covetous. He wants what everybody else has. Is as death, the son of perdition. It cannot be satisfied, but gathereth unto him all nations and heapeth unto him all people. Verse 6, the point. Shall not all these take up a parable against him and a taunting proverb against him and say, woe to him that increaseth that which is not his? How long? And to him that ladeth himself with thick clay. When you go to that word clay, it's a batya. A batya, and it says something pledged that is collectively called. But if you go to Blue Letter, I believe it still says debts, heavy debts. And again, the US dollar is a debt note, Book of Revelation chapter 6 and verse 6, and it reads, and when the money's failing, the first thing it does is it inflates. So it costs more of that same money to buy, this, when you spend it more for something, you're supposed to get more. But it says you're gonna spend more to get what you was getting, or even probably less. That's when you go into shrinkflation and all that old shit. It says Revelation 6:6, and I heard a voice in the midst of the four beasts say, a measure of wheat for a penny. So when you go to that word penny, it's denarius, which was the day's wage for a Roman soldier. Pretty much got this every day for just being in the military. So it said a measure of wheat for a denarius and 3 measures of barley for a denarius. And see thou hurt not the oil and wine. So it said uh, you gonna get a portion of bread for a day's wage. That's how bad the money's gonna inflate because yeah, and we ain't seeing that now. Everybody's complaining about the prices of goods. I was just with a brother. He took me to the store, and I was just tripping on how much money it costed to buy what I got because I didn't get very much, and you know, being grateful that I get assistance called lawyer, blah, y'all about shit out shot. But I don't really think about that. I think about the fact because I have a family. You know, and what happens with that can be utilized. You know, these benefits. That Babylon provides aren't going to always be here because the money go fella. Now, scriptures talk about put away mortal thoughts. So you don't dwell on those things. But I don't really think about. I ain't trying to complain. It's just like I said again, if it's that high now, and we ain't even see super high inflation, we ain't even see uh, hyperinflation. Just imagine where that come. It's the book of Ezekiel, chapter 7, point is, I think, verse 19. And it reads, they shall cast their silver in the streets, and their gold shall be removed because the money gonna fail. They gonna cast their silver in the streets because it's not gonna be worth nothing. In the time that's we coming here, the elder Malcolm from Chicago, the beloved elder, goes into the Marauders. I remember they did a video on that. I remember it's the elder Uriah elder. I think they had a like Sunday cap like study or whatever on the Sunday, but they intend to do a video, and I've caught a few of them. But he goes into the Marauders. Basically, you're gonna have people. In the movie Taken, he said when they took his daughter, he said, I have a skill set. Because everybody ain't got a skill set. Everybody can't fight. The elder Malcolm mentioned that. You're gonna have certain men that actually have martial prowess. They can fight, and that's gonna be and that's all. If you ever go into boxers, a lot of boxers are very very spiritual people because they understand that certain things are God given. I remember they were speaking to Tank, and I, always thought Tank was a great fighter. I thought he was a little overrated at the beginning, but now I forgot the last fight. When I say they beat up Ryan Garcia, because you got to understand, for such a smaller fighter to beat up a man that's way bigger, longer reach, But Tyson made a statement. Tyson said pretty much, jabbing ain't about reach, it's about timing. And then they went and showcased a fight where he had a very big opponent that he was beating up, with the jab. Which in your mind it sound good, but a person that know how to utilize their body, usually the longer person, that's the whole point of boxing, well, not of boxing, that is not the whole point. What I'm saying is a jab, is a fundamental tool in boxing. That's why they talk about Devin Haney. He got that principle of footwork and the jab. But I'm all over the place, so lock in. But point being, certain people can fight, certain people can't. And in the days of turmoil, that's why scriptures talk about 7 women should cleave onto a man, because in that day they're gonna be looking for a man to protect them. But the scriptures go even deeper because the Lord don't give a fuck about a nigga, a nigga that can fight. A man of the Lord is what women gonna need because the scriptures tell you wisdom and knowledge shall be the stability of thy time. What wisdom and knowledge? The wisdom and knowledge of the scriptures. These words give hope in a world that's gonna be full of hopelessness. That man is gonna be a rare commodity. So, silver and gold, that ain't gonna be worth shit. Because again, a pistol, if I got food and you got gold, at the time in society where people, they show you that in Walking Dead and certain shows, like if I can't spend the money, I can, I think, what was his name? He had damn, I can't think of his name. The two brothers. And the one rode the motorcycle. He had the crossbow. Anyway, long story short, he was with the that blonde head. You had Maggie and Glenn, and Maggie's sister, that blonde head chick though. And she basically, when she had her little episode, she wanted a drink, and he fought her. Darian, what's his name? Daryl. Yeah, call lawyer came back to my memory. Daryl, it went up. He ended up finding her, and she pretty much wanted a drink. And he filed her. He filed all his money. If I don't recall, if I recall correctly, I think he did try to keep some of the money. But the point is, the money was worthless because society wasn't wasn't like it used to be. Society was fucked up. You know what I'm saying? So and that's what's gonna be the same thing that happens when the money fell down. When the money fell, watch how uncivilized these civilized people be. The Joker said it best. He said these civilized people are gonna eat themselves, or he said eat each other. It says they shall cast their silver in the streets, and their gold shall be removed. Their silver and their gold shall not be able to deliver them in the day of the wrath of the Lord. They shall not satisfy their souls, neither fill their bowels, because it is the stumbling block of their iniquity. Scriptures talk about the love of money being the root of all evil. Money isn't evil. It's the love of money that makes it evil. And, that's something that this red Hebrew Edomite covets. I forgot where it's at. I think it's in Genesis but talk about the grandson of Esau, one of the grandsons, if I'm not mistaken. Basically, his name breaks down to "I love fine gold," roughly paraphrased. I'm gonna end it with this because the money's gonna eventually fail because it's prophesied to do so. But money is not gonna save you anyway. I'm gonna end on this note. This is the book of Proverbs, chapter 11, and the point is verse 4, that reads, "Riches profit not in the day of wrath." So you shouldn't be concerned or worried about not having money. Even certain brothers. I'll be honest. I even got the concept to start investing in silver from the elder, which ain't a bad idea, you know what I mean? Because if you can afford to do so, if you know that this money gonna fail, why not have some real money? But that real money ain't guaranteed to save you, you know what I mean? Like that's just like I listened to the brother from Kansas City make a statement on, like, literally when this shit get fucked up, he said it ain't, it's good to keep in mind to have a couple cases of water or an extra bit of food, that ain't gonna save you, but at the same time, like he was saying, he said people were fighting over toilet tissue in 2020, but passing up the food. You know what I mean? Like, that's how brainwashed these people is. It was like they said, go get toilet tissue, and people literally ran and broke their neck and was fighting over toilet tissue. How much more so the food in the day when, you know what I mean? So, we know we can't control anything, but, common sense would say, if you could buy a little bit more, why not? Well, who's to say you even gonna be at home? You know what I mean? It's just, individuals waste money on so many different things. That wouldn't be necessarily be a waste of money. Even if you don't need to touch it or utilize it right now, like you got certain like we are in camps and brothers look out for one another. You might have a brother doing decent, you might have a brother doing great, and you might have a brother down. So a brother can utilize some extra food, It says, riches profit not in the day of wrath, but righteousness deliver from death. So it's the righteousness that's going to basically allow you to be saved. And the elect are righteous. The elect are preserved from these said perils that's coming on the earth. Because they righteous in the sight and the eyes of Yahweh by Hashem Yahushua, because they are special spirits. They're righteous because they are going to basically not give in to this wicked ass system, no matter what, Shatta, or this red Hebrew Edomite throws at them. Because they faithful to Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai. They the true believers. So I will end the lesson on that. If I want to give all praise, all honor, all glory to call Loyal Blah Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem. Double honors to my apostles, the elders of the great millstone, who teach and do rule well. Peace and salutations to the Akim across the four corners of the earth, pushing the truth with faith and with sincerity, as well as risking their lives and the freedom to do so, now more so than ever. Shalom to the Akim and the Akwat out there listening and learning, for willingly this is edifying. Shalom to the Israelite foreigners scattered abroad, and the land of other nations appearing like the other nations was subscribing to this truth. To you I say Shalom. Till next time I'm able to come with a lesson, say Shalom, Shalom, and Boath, Shalom.